Welcome to Unsung Heroes with Johnny, Daniel, James, and Sam. Our goal is to leave no hero unsung. Welcome to the Unsung Heroes podcast. I'm Johnny, and I'm joined here with some friends. We have James.
Hello.
We have Samuel.
Hey, hey.
And we have Daniel.
Cześć.
What is that?
That's Polish.
Oh,
Again,
hey.
I like to foreshadow my episodes with the language that I speak.
Wow.
So guess where today's guy's from?
I don't know.
Poland?
No,
Nice.
Madagascar. No, it is Poland, yes.
Ah,
Hey, speaking of which, we should do one at Madagascar sometime. If we have a hero from
just
there.
somebody from there.
That'd be pretty cool.
But today we're doing somebody from Poland. His name is Stanisław Żółkiewski, and
Duh.
I'm not sure if I pronounce it right.
I
but
love
it
how we
sounds
have
right.
to go immediately into a Slavic accent before you
That is right, my friend.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, your voice has to go down a few octaves.
I wear Adidas.
But just to remind our audience, we are doing weekly uploads every Monday. You can catch the Unsung Heroes podcast, but we are doing shorter episodes, 20 or 30 minutes, and we're doing shorter improv songs at the end. So you still want to stick around for that, and we are still leaving no hero unsung.
Dun, 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 dun.
With that being said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Daniel, who will be telling us about Stanisław.
Welcome to the Unsung Heroes podcast.
Oh, wait a minute. Got a new host
So-
in here.
Round two.
Today, I want to talk to you guys about this man whom I stumbled upon after researching the infamous Polish winged hussars or hussars, however you want to say it. Let's land on a pronunciation. What are you guys comfortable with? Hussars, maybe?
That's what I've heard a lot of the time, but I've heard it differently as well.
The hussars? Hussars?
As if we know anything about it.
Well, I was trying to look it up, and I kept running into a bunch of different variations of it. So I'm just going to say the hussars, the Polish winged hussars. If you haven't heard of these guys, they are known to be one of the last elite cavalry units in history, and employed mainly during the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth times, which spans from about 1500s to 1800s roughly.
Wow.
And so they were an elite cavalry unit that was known to be very effective, and as effective as they could be for this Commonwealth, which, struggled with its own political issues and all that fun stuff. But we're not going to get into that. That's not what this is about. This is about Stanisław Żółkiewski. So I stumbled upon him while reading about the hussars and reading through some of their battles and some of the most decisive battles. And he came up as one of the very smart leaders. So I wanted to learn more about him.
So this is like cavalry that he was a leader of?
Yes.
Oh, horses.
Yes. Okay. He's more like a general than.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you tell it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. So Stanisław Żółkiewski was born in 1547. And unlike many who would go on to hold his title of, spoilers, a general in the Commonwealth.
What? He became a general? No.
General.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. No, I'm just kidding.
He actually had no higher education, which you would expect from someone in that title. And he apparently hadn't traveled abroad much at all. But he is said to have been fairly ambitious and wanted to learn on his own. So he studied a lot of history and literature by himself. And he was born into one of the houses under some of the coat of arms. So in 1566, so almost right around when he was about 20, he joined the court of King Sigismund II August as an aide to the king's secretary. And he started having some political experience.
So he was an aide to the secretary?
Yes, he was an aide to the secretary.
The assistant regional secretary.
Yes, he's the assistant to the manager, to the yeah. And so in this, he joins the courts. He's getting a lot of political experience, and then the political experience is followed up with military experience. During the Danzig Rebellion, which was a rebellion of a nearby village, he commanded a rota, which is a unit of Polish hussars. And so this starts kind of his military battles and experience of many, many years. So he, leads the royal army against many a foe, and he has a lot of these experiences. In 1584, he captures a noble named Samuel Zborowski, who was later executed by the captors. So this was a huge political move. He got a lot of heat for it, but he did this because he had allied himself with the Zamoyski family because the patriarch of the family was his mentor. So he aided them in taking down their rival family. So there's a lot of kind of Game of Thronesy stuff going on around now. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth is very interesting in the way that it was sort of a central power, but it was one of the most decentralized commonwealths in history, in a sense.
Right,
So a lot of the noblemen, a lot of the leaders and nobles had extreme autonomy over their own regions and armies and whatnot, which is said to be one of the downfalls of the Commonwealth later. But anyway, so one of the biggest moves for him comes in 1588 during the War of Polish Succession, when Sigismund III and Maximilian III fight each other to try to win the Polish crown. So he supported Sigismund and commanded his right flank in the Battle of Bujzina, which was a deciding battle. It was about 6,000 troops on both sides, and Sigismund ended up winning. And he sustains a knee injury here.
What kind of knee injury?
An arrow to the knee. But he becomes, I don't want to say lame for the remainder of his life. What's a better word?
Crippled? It's pretty lame
Injured?
after that. Really.
Sort of crippled,
Yeah.
because of that knee injury for the remainder of his life. But he doesn't give up. He keeps going. And as a result of this victory, he's appointed Field Crown Hetman, which is the third highest ranking military officer in the Commonwealth. And it's third only to the king and then the Grand Crown Hetman. So these Field Crown Hetmans are like generals who are all below one Grand General who's over all the generals, and then the king. So he is given this title along with a few castles and lands and whatnot. And ultimately, he sets his eyes on the Grand Crown Hetmanship, and that's what he wants. So he fights in many battles, and he keeps on defending the current Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth as well as seizing new land.
So the Grand Crown Hetmanship that he wants to get that's like the second in command, right under the king?
Yes, that's right
Okay.
under the king. So you're pretty much at that point, whoever has that title is almost the most powerful man in the area except for the king.
So it's kind of like the commander-in-chief if that power wasn't presiding under the office of president
Yes.
in our case.
Right.
So he's still over all the armed forces,
Yeah, so the idea is all the field crown hetmans have, complete autonomy over any battles or whatever they reside over, unless they're, it's like a big war that they're all involved in which case whoever the Grand Crown Hetman is becomes the commanding officer in the area. So in 1606, there's a rebellion by the Zebrydowski, and he sides with the king. This rebellion's against King Sigismund, who he was fighting for in the previous
Right.
war. But unfortunately, when he's siding with the king, he has to side against his own mentor Zamoyski. So that's kind of a bummer for
Betrayal.
him.
When I left you, I was but a learner.
Now I am the master.
And what really stinks for him is he doesn't, well, I don't know if this really stinks, but his troops don't even take that much of a part of the battle, the deciding battle, which you could say is good because he doesn't have to fight his mentor. But at the same time, because he doesn't have a pivotal part of it, the king doesn't give him the Grand Crown Hetmanship, which he so coveted.
Right.
But he continues to do his job because he's a good man. He's a man of duty. He just really sounds like a man of the book kind of thing, just reads, studies, and fights and leads really well. So one of the biggest battles of his life is called the Battle of Kulishno. And this comes around the time of Russian aggression. So there's a Russian army that's being led by Prince Dmitry Shuisky, and it's heading towards the besieged fortress of Smolensk, which is in Russia. And he's intercepted by Polish forces, so he decides to divide his army into smaller units. He sends an advance force of 8,000 Russian soldiers, and the army that they encounter is about 12,000 Polish soldiers led by...
I'm going to take a wild guess.
Żółkiewski.
Hey, very nice.
Hey, do you know what Russian Tsar this was under?
This is under Tsar Vasily IV.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so the Russian advanced force of about 8,000 run into the Polish that have 12,000. So the Poles try to attack them, but the Russians are in a really good position and they fortify. And, there's 8,000 of them, so it's no joke. So the Polish army encircle them and trap them in the camp. But meanwhile, there is a main Russian force of about 35,000 soldiers that are just a few days away.
Oh, man.
So what Żółkiewski decides to do is he decides to leave behind a small force of his army to take the larger cut himself and try to go cut off Świecki himself.
So he's kind of leaving a skeleton force to hold down the siege, basically.
Exactly. And he's hoping that the Russians don't call his bluff and think that there's still a lot of the force. And his tactic works because the trapped Russians just stay put because they don't know that majority of the Polish army has left.
Oh, wow. So they just weren't aware of it at all.
So they just don't know. And they're not able to communicate with Świecki during this time. So they just have no idea what's going on.
Huh.
So Żółkiewski's force runs into Świecki's at night and they both take the nighttime to prepare. And so Świecki, the Russian prince, has about 30,000 Russian troops as well as about 5,000 mercenaries. Żółkiewski himself had about 6,500 to 6,800 men.
Oh, no.
And it's noted that 80% of these soldiers were the Polish winged hussars. So about 5,500 of these are elite cavalrymen who are very adept at not only lances and melee, but also at shooting. So they're an invaluable asset to him. So the Russian army decides to place the mercenaries in the right flank, and then they put the main Russian army in the center and left flanks. And their military is mostly consisting of infantrymen, of pikemen, and musketeers.
Right.
And the Polish army is mostly cavalrymen, although they do have several hundred infantrymen.
So these are kind of crazy odds. Were they confident in their ability to take on such a larger force, or were they kind of forced to, out of necessity, to engage the Russians in this case?
So in a sense, they have to take him on because they can't let this Russian army pass. Especially, they can't let him rendezvous with the other one because then the odds are even worse. But Żółkiewski also sort of is confident in his army and his men, and so they decide to take the battle. Just before dawn the next morning, the Polish hussars started attacking, and this adds, James, to their disadvantage because it's a flat field, which, is nice for cavalry.
That's great for cavalry, yeah.
But there is a huge village nearby, so there's a giant picket fence that runs through the whole field.
Oh, wow.
So the hussars only had very extremely narrow gaps to attack through.
Oh.
It always intrigues me how a landscape plays such a big role in battles like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's something you usually think about when you're imagining battles and warfare.
Yeah, you just think it's all about the numbers or the people. You never think about the location.
And knowing the landscape as well.
Oftentimes in shows and movies when they have these older looking battles between cavalry or infantry, it's just always in an open field.
And they're always intermingling
right.
and brushing up against each other in chaos. In reality, you'd want to maintain your lines, right? You
Yeah.
get a bunch of people
Exactly,
with spears trying to poke you.
Or it might be that some people are up on a cliff or there's a mountain or in this case a fence.
Right.
Yeah, just a fence.
It's not just a vast open field.
Yeah. Or a river, for example, will totally halt your advance if you have archers or gunmen on you.
Yeah,
It's
no,
what do you do?
location's
Yeah.
very important because there's a battle a few years before this where Polish are fighting the Swedish army, and Swedish army is located on top of a hill. But what the Poles do is they keep sending out their, again, winged hussars, who are incredible, to kind of cause a few casualties and come back and attack and come back because they're trying to get them off the hills.
Yeah.
And the Swedes don't fall for it for the longest time, but then they finally think they have the upper hand and they think the Poles are getting exhausted. So they chase, and immediately, the cavalry turns back and collapses on them, and the Swedes fail. And, they're outnumbered in that battle as well, but not nearly as bad as this one.
Right.
So the winged hussars, again, they're armored fairly well, and for the most part, they all have muskets and guns, so they're able to charge in, get a few shots off, try to maybe lance a few enemies, and then ride right back. And one of the winged hussars who later wrote about this experience, he said that in that morning alone that they charged 8 or 10 times.
Man.
Which when you think about, going over, miles and miles and miles and whether you're going to die or not, it's a lot of times.
It takes a lot of mental and physical fortitude to charge full speed ahead into a oncoming force and then regroup, get out, go in again. I mean, that's a ton.
Yeah, and to make it worse for them, because of all the fences and the fact that the Russians have a lot of the infantry and the mercenaries especially had extremely long pole arms and lances, the hussars aren't able to cause much damage at all. And they keep having to retreat and go back and retreat. So they have to keep their distance and they're not able to really do much. But at this point, the sun rises in the east and they look to the hills and Gandalf emerges now.
Whoa. I was waiting for that moment.
On the third day.
What happens is Świecki, the Russian prince, wants to take advantage of the Polish exhaustion. Which, if you remember from the Swedes that I just told you about, this was a mistake.
Ooh.
So what he does is he wants to order a fast counterattack, hoping to, as the Poles are retreating, he wants to strike at the cavalry and then the Russians just immediately retreat and come back. However, once his cavalry charges in and breaks towards the Polish line, the Polish hussars just turn right around, put away their firearms, and just fight melee. And fairly soon, the Russian cavalry is completely enclosed within the Polish cavalry, and they're decimated. The Poles just wreck the entire cavalry, and because of this, the right flank of the Poles is able to attack, so the left flank of the Russians starts to break. And again, we keep talking about warfare during this time. If you guys know anything about it, once a major chunk or a major flank in the battlefield breaks, the rest come very quickly. It's not like a heroic movie where everyone stands.
The last
doesn't
man
matter how many people you lose. No, like as soon as a significant chunk of your army is getting destroyed, everyone just starts running away.
I was listening to some military historian once who talked about the fact that people theorize that when about even 20-30% around that range of men are lost on a battlefield, you pretty much surrender. I mean, that obviously varies based on context, but it seems like if you lose even a small minority, or maybe a significant minority, I should say, of your troops, you're pretty much broken. And it's very hard to maintain yourselves unless you have incentive to otherwise maintain a fight going. So it makes sense that once you kind of break, you're pretty much done.
Yeah, and I will refer back to that number actually. But what happens is as the Russians are getting routed and the flanks are failing, the right flank actually holds really well, but then the Polish cavalry runs them over as well. So the Russians are running back to their own encampment that they've created before the battle, and the mercenaries run into their own, which I thought was interesting that they have their own. I'm no historian, but I'm assuming this was fairly common to where the mercenaries would have their own camp outside of, kind of like the Royal Army. So the Poles have both camps surrounded. And what they do is they go to the mercenaries and they're like, hey, we will negotiate with you. So this is really interesting about Żółkiewski. Kind of like Caesar, honestly. Wait, is it Julius Caesar who constantly will kind of like throw the olive branch once he's defeated the enemy and let them negotiate their way out of it?
I think to some degree. I think Augustine also fairly often did this. With Herod, for example, he did that in the first century the first century BC when he kind of gave that as well. I think Alexander the Great was similar. I mean, he would do that as well fairly often.
Yeah, and I feel like what people don't think about these people is just because they're incredible military men and have armies doesn't mean they just steamroll everyone.
Right, yeah.
Usually, you fight them and they route back to their city or somewhere and you just say, okay, do you give up? So he gets the mercenaries to agree to never fight for the Russians versus the Polish ever again. And he allows them to, leave safely and go back to their lands. These are Flemish, Dutch, Scots, just people from everywhere. And actually several hundred decide to join the Polish army.
Negotiations.
How are the Polish rates these days, boys? I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, even take someone like Genghis Khan, right? Or Genghis Khan, the great brutal Mongolian warlord. Even he, when he was conquesting across the steppe and into Central Asia, he saw the utility of extending mercy. He had the strategy where what we'll do is we'll absolutely decimate in the most brutally possible way a city, spread fear into the hearts of everyone around them, and then just offer a capitulation offer. Just say, okay, you saw what we did to them. That's what we'll do to you. Now just lay down your arms peacefully, keep the status quo. We'll let you stay here, adopt some of our customs. We'll let you keep your religion for the most part. That often happens. Sometimes it didn't, sometimes it did. But that kind of strategy makes a lot of sense when you're trying to, be utilitarian about it, if you will. You want to try to be conscious of your resources, what makes most sense. You don't want bloodshed that's unnecessary.
Exactly.
I'd say Genghis Khan probably went way over the top most of the time, but it's an interesting idea.
To say the least.
Yeah. So what they do after the mercenaries is they start negotiating with the Russians, and the Russians are allowed to retreat. And as they retreat, what happens is this is a decisive victory in the Polish-Russian War. The 7 boyars, the Russian nobles who were extremely powerful at this time, oust Tsar Vasily IV due to the loss of Prince Shuishki. So this kind of ends the war. But the battle, an interesting thing about it is the main battle, the main part of it where they clash, lasts about 5 hours. And the Russians lost about 5,000 soldiers, and Żółkiewski lost only about 400.
Wow.
100 of which were the winged hussars.
Man.
So this goes back to, James, what you said about the percentages, because if you lose 5,000 out of 35, that's 15% people
there,
of the
yeah.
army. So when you look at the number, you think, geez, 5,000 people are a lot. But when you think about 15%, you think, really? Is that enough to beat a whole army? Especially when the other army is already outnumbered by you like 3-1. But that's all it took. And so because the Tsar is ousted by the 7 boyars, Żółkiewski is able to enter Moscow with a little opposition at this point. So they go to the capital. And the 7 boyars who've ousted the Tsar proclaim the Polish prince Władysław IV as the new Tsar of Russia. Now, what's interesting here is he claims the title, the prince, but he never assumes the throne because his father, the king, isn't able to negotiate a lasting agreement with the boyars. And one thing that's mentioned here is Żółkiewski's political plan was to have Władysław, the Polish prince, convert to Orthodoxy to gain kind of that popularity and the foothold so that he could actually assume the throne.
Wow.
But because they don't listen to him and they avoid his suggestions, nothing comes of it. And the small Polish garrison left behind in Moscow was later besieged and surrenders within a year. So it's really sad because this huge decisive victory kind of goes to waste in a sense.
Right.
Wow.
And Żółkiewski just returns home, starts writing his memoirs, and becomes a tutor to future military leaders. But he doesn't stop there. His fame starts to decline. After the whole "why don't you become an Orthodox" thing gets turned down, he proposes raising a large army to deal with the continued threat of the Tatars and the Cossacks, but the parliament doesn't approve it. And he's actually, ironically enough, later faulted for losing against the Tatars as they keep fighting the Poles. And he's like, well, I told you guys we need a bigger army. And he signs a major treaty where he relinquishes certain lands to the Ottoman Empire, which again shows he's not just a battle-hardy man. He's
Daniel, is that happiness I detect in your voice? Is there?
I mean, the Ottomans are pretty savvy.
You're like, and then he ceded lands to the Ottomans. Nice.
He knew he had no choice. No,
That's
but
why
really,
he's my
I think,
favorite hero.
I feel like it shows something about a leader to be like, you know what? We're screwed. Let's just sign a treaty of peace and give away some lands. But anyway.
I feel like that's why you decided to talk about this guy, so you could throw in the Ottomans.
That's right.
This has just been leading up to the Ottomans.
Stanisław Żółkiewski, whatever, the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
So finally, in 1618, he is appointed as the Grand Crown Hetman, which is what he has been wanted this whole time.
Oh, finally.
There we go.
So he was thus, for a short period of time, the most powerful individual in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth after the king. And what's incredible is he doesn't reach this through, riches or family or connections, but merely through military achievement and his reputation as an incredible military man.
Wow.
He earns the position truly through merit. And going into his 70s, he continues to fight and be in the military, which is just insane to me. I just can't imagine it.
Yeah, like to be in your 70s. I feel like at that point, there's not much battle you can really take part in.
Yeah, it's mostly commanding at that point, but
Even so, like, I mean, a lot of a lot of people aren't in the right mind at that age. So it's like, you're really putting our whole army in your hands.
It really kind of shows where his interests lay, I guess. And his last war is against again, no bias here, but his last war is against the Ottomans in the Polish-Ottoman War of 1620 to 21, where they lost. And as they start retreating, there are many like skirmishes throughout the routing. And in the last notable rout, he allegedly, legend has it, refuses to retreat in order to stay with the rear guard till the very end, and he is killed.
Oh.
And after the battle, this is sort of graphic, so if anyone doesn't like graphic stuff, please close your ears for about 10 seconds. His head is removed and sent back to Constantinople as a trophy of war. And then his widow actually has to like ransom for his body and for their son, who's actually captured during this war. But anyway.
Wow,
man.
So thus endeth the glorious life of a good military man.
What do you think his memoirs would be called?
The life of a Stanisław.
Did he actually write memoirs though, right?
He did. So one of the memoirs he wrote is called hold on, I'm going to try to Polish my way out of this. Początek I progres woźni moskiewski, which is the beginning and progress of the Muscovy War, obviously because he led them against the
That seems
Russians.
fitting.
So either
Right?
Polish is just so similar to Russian, or our Russian knowledge is coming into our Polish pronunciation, because that just sounds so Russian to me.
It's a Russian.
Probably a
So
little
another
above.
one he writes
Yeah, probably a
is-
little bit.
It's a project called O Chovaniu Zoirnerja Kwarcinego, which is like raising of the... What is this? The Quarcine soldiers? Okay, I'm just going to cut this part out. This is this.
No, you can't. Commit.
Anyway.
You have to commit.
So yeah, he was an incredible guy, led the Commonwealth to many a victory, and he is now remembered as one of the most famous Polish military commanders in Polish history.
Wow, that's pretty
awesome.
crazy.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing about him, Dan. It sounds like a pretty
Yeah,
cool guy.
guys. Yeah. I really wanted to talk about someone from this time period because I love, warfare and time periods like this, but I know a lot of our audience don't really want to listen to long episodes of this. So
Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, we still appreciate it. I mean, it's still really interesting. I
Yeah.
love the warfare stuff too. Well, we don't have time to write a full song, but James can improv one right now. He's got his guitar. What do you?
I had some ideas.
Oh, really?
I wrote down. I wrote down some ideas as you
So
were
it's not
speaking.
truly improv.
So I guess in that sense, all right. Stanislav gonna beat some Russians. Don't care about the Scots, Danes, or Prussians. Only foe he didn't beat was Ottomans. Yeah, 'cause no one can beat them. Ottomans.
The Ottomans.
All right.
moral of the story is don't cross the Ottomans.
There we go, guys. There we
Wow.
go.
That's
Wow.
definitely not the story here, guys. The story is an incredible Polish general or ground crown hetman.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, we need like a
Yeah,
disclaimer,
man.
like the views expressed by the members do not reflect
Correct,
the
yeah.
unsung heroes.
Well, any takeaways, guys?
Yeah.
I think we so often forget the just how cultures have their own heroes. We often get so focused on our own cultures, what's important to us. As a lot of us, most of us here are Americans, but we're kind of taught history and we're always emphasizing our heroes from our own context. I think it's cool to kind of see from a different culture who are their kind of home heroes,
Yeah.
And I think the unfortunate part is that, as Americans, because we're, such kind of American media and American culture is kind of upfront everywhere. People hear a lot about the American heroes. I don't think it goes the other way around as much. We don't usually, as Americans, hear about these other heroes from different countries we're not as familiar with. So I think it's great to bring those things to light.
And normally when we do hear about them, they're as our enemies. So
Right.
we're just like,
Right.
they're
Well,
not heroes.
What's funny to me is that It's I think all the directors right now who are in their like 50s, 40s, they grew up during like the Cold War era particularly. So all the villains are Russian, you know.
Yeah,
Which is funny
yeah.
for me, you know, we all grew up in a former Soviet Union context. So it was kind of always interesting to me to see all these Western movies coming out, and you know, my friends would be like, you know, hey, why are the Russians always the bad guys, man? You know,
Yeah.
it's just I
That
find it
dynamic
quite,
is always so interesting.
yeah,
in
I always find
movies.
it quite funny. But
Yeah.
What's really cool to me is seeing someone like him who's, you know, a quote unquote Polish hero, but he was during the time of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which the span of it was more than just Poland. So it's really cool to me to see kind of heroes in different countries' histories where, you know, it's not really just the Polish that look up to this guy. You know, it could be the Lithuanians, it could be anyone who was in what is that empire. So that's really cool to me to see how different countries throughout history, you know, their land has changed, the amount of you know, nations they've ruled over has changed, and how that is so different, I guess.
absolutely
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool.
Well, thanks, Dan. And I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So thank you for listening to all of our listeners. Be sure to share this with some friends who you think like this type of history for sure. And stay tuned for more episodes. Next Monday, we'll have another one out. And follow us on Instagram, Unsung Heroes Podcast. You can see some of our announcements, and we'll be posting some of the old songs onto YouTube, and we'll post links on our Instagram to that as well. So you're going to want to head over there. But for now, we will go ahead and see you guys on the next one.
Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.